Hey guys, welcome to. As I said previous, we are up to this one where we have to get a default 4-star. I actually could have recorded this yesterday or the day before, and I didn't because I misread the notice. I thought that the notice said that the game would. I read this as a 6, not an 8. So I thought the new units were coming out today, not on Friday. My bad. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go through. We're gonna look at the notices, look at the skills and stuff, talk about those a little bit. Then we'll do the summons for this mission because we'll do a 10 pull for that. Hopefully that will get us a 4-star. Then that's kind of the goal of this particular video. And what I think I'm going to do, actually, I should have thought of this a minute ago, right? But if I pull up, no, I was gonna say if I pulled up the update notice on my other screen, we could do some comparisons, but I don't know that we necessarily is gonna need that. So we'll just do it this way. If we have to bounce back and forth, we have to bounce back and forth, right? Not a huge problem. Okay, so the update that comes out Friday, this also threw me off because of the release date here. The Tree and Light Fairy are their 6-star effect is being changed from 20% effect rate accuracy to 15 speed, which is really good. Speed is unfortunately in a lot of games that are gacha games, speed is like the ultimate meta, right? You want to go first because if you go first, you have a chance of locking them down and destroying them. So that's actually a really good awaken effect. Honestly, effect accuracy is pretty good in this game in general, but it's not. It pales compared to speed. So that's a pretty good buff for those two fairies. In Electromancer, looks like everybody but the green one. The green one's the bomber. Reverse polarity, increase the chance of effect activation by 20%. Okay, that's good. It's good to get that happening more often. Superconduct space for light. Applies foresight. Is become attack up. That's interesting. Foresight is the one that prevents, or that either foresight is either the one that prevents debuffs. No, that's nullify. Foresight is the one that makes attacks glancing. So they're changing it to an attack up. Interesting. I wonder why. I don't. That's kind of an upgrade, I guess. You go from tanky to more damagey. So yeah, okay. Breakdown dark, burn change to paralysis. So burn does damage based on the cooldown of the skills used, which you can avoid by just using skill 1. Paralysis has a chance to remove secondary effects from skills. I personally find paralysis a lot better for most things than burn. Especially in PvP, paralysis is better than burn because your enemy will probably just go, oh, they're burned, and use skill 1, so you don't actually get much out of burn. Or they hit you with their late skill anyway because it's high enough. Oh my gosh. Sorry, guys. High enough risk versus reward there. Anesthetic, Fire, Psychosurgeon. Bonus damage dealt to enemies with debuffs reduced from 30% to 25%. Okay. Okay, I like that. Enemies without debuffs. So he gets a little bit tankier at the cost of a little bit less damage dealt. Okay, that's not horrible. Water, Mercenary Mother, Water, Light, and Dark. I have the Water one on my main account. She gains crit damage based on her effect resistance. So Hyper Pliers, which is the second skill, I believe, Amount of additional damage that increases gradually as the enemy's defense decreases has been reduced from a minimum of 15% to 10%. Okay, so it's a little bit of a damage nerf. That's not horrible. She is kind of... These two are kind of overtuned, I'm not going to lie. And Dark... I've not fought a lot of Dark mercenary mothers, but this does make sense because a lot of the times if a unit sends up a shield, but not automatically, like they don't start with it, a lot of the times you can just nuke it out, so it's less of a problem. So this will make her a little harder to get off the field on the first turn, so that's not horrible. I don't know if they've overshot that one or not, because we don't fight a lot of them, so we'll see. Okay, Blood Transfusion. This is the Fire War Nurse passive skill, which is not nice. She's really, really, really hard because of this passive. So currently it grants either attack, up, healing, overturn, or invincible to whoever has the lowest HP other than herself. And if she has the lowest HP, she balances HP with the ally with the highest HP. Okay. Wait, is this not the passive? This might be the... Split... Okay, now we are going to go back to game. Sorry, I didn't think we were going to have to do that. Bestiary. I always want to say Bestiary, but there's no A there. War Nurse. I thought Blood Transfusion was skill 3. It is. Okay. And if her... Then based on the health status... Okay, so they left out part of it. So at the start of turn, remove a debuff from herself and the ally with the lowest health. Balance the health ratio if your health is the lowest. Balance with the ally who has the highest. Otherwise, balance with the health ratio between her and her. And then, based on their health status, grant them attack, up, healing, overturn, or invincible. This skill does so much and makes her such a threat on the field just because it makes everything hard to kill. Come on, scroll. So then instead, they're keeping attack, appeal, up, and invincible with the ally with the lowest HP, but now that can affect her. Okay. And when her HP is the lowest, she does not balance HP with the highest ally HP. Okay, so it's... I feel like that is going to be a net nerf. Because if you... Basically, she doesn't keep herself on the field forever now. And you can prevent the ally, whatever ally you're balancing with, from getting attack up, healing up, or invincible by nuking her down. So that, yeah, that's going to make her a lot easier to fight against. Okay, I like that. I don't know if it'll be enough, but it very well should, right? Now this one, and we'll get to the Wicked Witches later. The Dr. Evil, whoopsie. The Water Dr. Evil, I told you guys an episode or two ago. This is a fantastic unit. He's a great buffer. He's got a whole bunch of just good to him. His only thing he didn't have was a heal. So you get real good buffs out of him, but if he had no sustain. So what they've done now is they've added a sustain. It's 20% HP. If it follows the trend of other 20% HP, it'll probably go to 26% HP on skill up if they maintain that trend. But even if it doesn't, 20% HP is not a bad what's the word? Amount, right? So that'll make him a lot easier. We'll come back to the witches. All right, bears. Remove the attack power coefficient from the damage formula on skill 1 and skill 2 of Tree, Fire, Light. Remove the attack power consistent, but increase the HP coefficient. So they did damage based on HP and attack. Now they only do damage based on HP. So it's a flat nerf to gigging, right? To their skill 1 because they did not increase the HP coefficient there. I'm not sure if it's a nerf to this or not. And honestly, most people are still just stacking them with HP. So I don't know that this is going to be I don't know if it's going to be enough for a couple of the bears. The Fire Tree Light specifically. I don't know if that bear down the mountain nerf is going to be enough or not. We'll see. Oddly, fire tends to be easier to deal with than tree and light, and then tree is easier to deal with than light, and light is just a pain in the ass. Ninrat Light, he's a fun unit. He's just weird. Reset timing for Zanshin has been moved from the end of your turn to after using a skill. This ensures Zanshin points earned from killing an enemy with self-revive during an extra turn are retained. Okay, minor buff. Basically made it to where it should work the way they intended it to work. Because as it was, if you killed somebody and got your 7 Zanshin points, which gives you a 70% chance to take an extra turn later, but the enemy revived either from the revive skill or the revive gear set, you wouldn't get those Zanshin points. So that makes sense. I like that quite a bit. That is a good balancing rework there. Popo Guardian Dark. And so now instead of lowering the damage she takes, she now is reflecting damage, because before she lowered the damage taken from all enemies by 20%, but by light enemies from 40 or 25 and 45 or something like that. And she had got a 1 turn unyield. Now she's getting a 2 turn unyield, which means for 2 turns she cannot die. And she's getting this reflect. Okay. Yeah, I want to know what the cooldown is on that. I don't remember. It's kind of long, honestly, but that's actually really nice. That'll make her a little more useful in especially in some PvE content. I'm thinking Vegas specifically because of the unyield. We're gonna have to maybe we'll pull her and we'll try it, or maybe I'll remember to write down what my passwords for my accounts are, and so I can show you guys on my regular, but on my personal, I mean, who knows. Spider got a effect added to Overload. So Overload is the passive for the Spider, and what it does is it makes everybody's critical damage higher at the expense of taking extra damage. And I think it's 35% more crit damage. Okay, you know what? We're going to do it again. I know. I said we weren't going to do it, and here we are. Overload. Yeah, critical damage by 35%, but defense is... Oh, they don't take 15% more damage. They just reduce their defense by 15%. Which is fine if you're not pairing it with a bunch of defense-based units. So you'll take a little bit extra damage, but if you're going to be critting a lot, that's good. So he gets 70% critical damage bonus for the same 15. He also gets a 30 to 50% chance to apply mark, and they're just adding a defense up on that. Oops. Oh, he does damage based on defense. That's right. So yeah, they're basically just giving him a little self buff. And so that at the end of his turn, he gets a damage based on defense. Right? At the end of his turn? Yeah, after he attacks. So he basically gets a little extra damage and a little more defense on his next turn. Makes up a little bit, because he's a damage based on defense, but his passive is lowering his defense. I think that's why they did that. Makes sense to me. I kind of wish it was party-wide, but it makes sense that it's not. Gyrolian, hey, this is the standard farmer. Tail Dance Water, which is the skill 3. Reduce the effect of removing all buffs to removing 1 buff. Okay, that's sad, but it was a very consistent, very useful AoE strip that removed every buff on every enemy target. That's too good for a 3-star. Honestly. If you're going to be stripping all buffs from all enemies, you're looking at 4-star or light dark 4-star or 5-star type of thing, right? So that was definitely way too much for him. We're getting... Okay, now let's look at the new units. So these are the guys that I'm hoping to be pulling soon. They're called Wicked Witches, but they don't look... They look more like assassins, right? They got the mask with the fangs. I think GB made that observation too. I like the design here. I can't wait to see the actual design. You know, like the full 3D render. But those portraits are cool looking. They strike happiness into my little vaporwave heart here. You know. Okay, so here's their skill 1. Yeah. Skill 1, Malevolent Gift. Attack the enemy and apply 2 turns of damage over time. So 1 damage over time buff for 2 turns with up to 80%. 80% on skill 1. Ooh. If resisted or immune, cast this skill again. Okay, it says once again, so I think on a translation problem, I think what they mean is only once, because otherwise that's, you know, you just go infinitely with that. So it's got to be at least once, right? Just the once, I hope. Or honestly, I hope not for like a week until they realize what they did and rebalance it, just because that would be fun to play with. But yeah, that has to be just skill 1. Oh, it resisted. Oh, they got immune. Skill 1 again. That'll make it super useful in the tree one in Boxing Club, maybe. Let's see what her other skills are, of course. Yeah. No, that's actually going to be really good. That also makes them really good in the Abyss dungeons, right? Because the Abyss dungeons are... they're immune to all debuffs until they get into their down state. And so she would just be getting a second attack every time. Okay. Skill 2, Fire and Light. Attack the enemy, apply 2 turn Toxic and 1 turn Sleep. So Toxic is the one that reduces your maximum HP by 5%, 3%, something like that, every turn, and then a turn of sleep. That's actually really nice. If they're already asleep, this skill ignores 70%. Ooh, that's pretty good, actually. So you'd get that to 90, 95 with the ambush set, right? Not as good as something that ignores completely, of course, but there's very few that ignore completely. And the ones that ignore completely tend to be very low base power, like the tree, not gunslinger. Hold up. The tree bookworm is 3 hits that completely ignore defense, but they only use like 40% of his actual attack power, which is why you have to stack them really, really high in attack power and they'll get a number of crit to make that work real well. The tree gunslinger, his, I believe, is 5 hits, but because the number of ignore defense is based on his number of buffs, so he has a % chance to ignore all defense. So I believe his is 80. Let's oh, I can't tell actually, can I? I don't have the I don't have the thing that tells me right now. Wrong account. That's okay though. So I really want to know what her there they are. I really want to know what their damage % in their calc for that is, because that could be really, really good with somebody who's puts things to sleep a lot, like the blue puppet artist or the green um, musical. What's her name? The musician lady, the green 5-star, who puts everybody to sleep and then tries to keep them asleep. That also is an anti-bear unit, right? Because all your bears have a sleep state, so you're just going to start ignoring their defense. I like that. Anti-bear, that's nice. Okay, skill 2 for Water Tree and Dark is called Corruption. Attacks everybody, which is good. Applies 2 turns of attack up and defense up with a 50% chance to 70%. And afterward, increase your action bar by 5% for each debuff on the enemy side. Okay, so that's good for all your Abyss dungeons. That's good for Mental Fortress. That's going to be good for some of your PvP stuff if you can set your party correctly, because you'll use something that drops their speed, load them up with debuffs, probably poison ones, and then hit them with the corruption to gain action bar. Because if you've got 4 units and each one has 5 DOTs, that's 5 separate debuffs per enemy on that side. There's 4 enemies, that's 100% attack bar, right? So then you get her with maybe a refresh set or a couple of different people, or Dark Warners, and you really like keep that cycling really fast. I wonder what its base turn cycling is. Its cooldown rate. Attack all enemy and apply 2 turns of attack up and defense up with a 50% to 70% chance. Does that apply it to her, or does that apply it to the enemy? Usually when it says attack and apply, you're talking about debuffs, which apply to the enemy. Or did they mean attack down and defense down and just typoed it? Oh, that could be, right? Because, like, this one up here says grants attack up, grants the buff. This one says applies the buff. So I'm curious as to what their deal is. Hi, baby. I'm recording a video, yeah. Do you want to come say hi? You want to come say hi, Mr. Man? No? Okay. The cat decided he didn't want to say hi. He just wanted to meow for pets. Okay, skill 3 time. And they're all different. No, there's no repeats on skill 3. Okay. So water skill 3 is Drain Soul. Steal a buff and 30% of your max HP from the target enemy. So saying steal 30% of your max HP from the enemy makes me feel like that's going to deal damage and then heal the water Wicked Witch. That could be interesting. Reduces the target's max HP by half of the damage you deal. So if you deal 100 damage, it reduces their max HP by 50. That's good. So there's a couple of reasons why reducing their max HP is good. One, it makes them easier to kill if they revive or if they heal. Especially important in PvP. 2, there are some units that interact based on missing health or percentage of health that they do better, like if their health is not at full or not at blank, and reducing their max HP keeps them in that higher percentage ratio state longer, which is desirable for certain units. Resets the cooldown of this ability to targets killed. Okay, so you snipe something, heal a little bit, maybe, steal a buff from them, maybe, and if you kill them, you get this skill back. Okay, I like that. Cataclysm of Fire. Apply 2 damage over turn for 2 turns to one enemy, then launch an attack. Increase your damage by 30% for each debuff on the target. If the target is immune to damage over turn, increase damage by an additional 50%. So this is a good PvE ability. This would be good in a lot of dungeons. The immune to DOT increased damage makes it good for high damage during the down phase of Abyss Dungeon. And the increased damage by 30% for each debuff on the target. Anybody who's played with Crow and Summoner's War knows how good that is. Or the Dark Sharpshooter in this game has the same ability. Not this full ability, but that increased damage per debuff. So that's super good. I again wondering what the cooldown is. I feel like this kind of contradicts that, making her kind of a split unit between certain different PvE accounts areas, and maybe different PvP. I don't do like live arena a lot, so I'm thinking strictly from a regular arena standpoint, or the special arena thing they have, rather than the live arena. That I feel like this one's going to be really good in arena. This one's going to be really good in PvE, in Abyss specifically. Um, so I don't know. We'll see, right? Because basically in PvP, I want them to lose toxic. I want them to lose turns. In Abyss, I want to do more damage during the down phase per debuff, and since they are immune to DOT, I get an additional 50% damage on top of that. That's fantastic for Abyss. Tree Plague Bringer. Whenever a debuff you apply is resisted, reduce the effect resistance of all non-boss units on the battlefield by 10% up to 10 times. And when you successfully apply a debuff, inflict one unresistible toxic. So that's Tree, which has this same, which has this one here. You see why I think these might be typos right here? Because Plaguebringer, this should work with Plaguebringer, right? Like, Plaguebringer doesn't seem to work with itself because it's attack up and defense up. Skill 1 does do debuffs, which will trigger Plaguebringer and which will trigger the secondary effect in Corruption. I just feel like Corruption is typoed. I feel like this is supposed to be attack break and defense break. Though that would be really strong too. You don't often get both attack and defense break on one unit, and like in these types of games, and almost never on the same skill. So maybe it is attack up and defense up. It just feels weird to me, you know? Alright, the ones nobody will ever get. Acid Rain, Light. Attack all enemies 3 times, okay. Multi-attack across AoE, that's good. Each attack has a 70 to 80% chance to apply damage over turn, sure. Ignores defense for each damage over turn on the target. Ooh. Okay, so if you put... I wonder how that works, because 4 damage over turns, which is easy to get, you toss on a Tree Ninrat and hit skill 3, and you're going to apply 4 to 6. So her skill 3 will just ignore 100% of defense with that attack. That's going to have a low multiplier. It's attacking all enemies 3 times and ignores defense. It probably won't be as low as the bookworm, the tree bookworm, because his is 40% times 3, I think. So hers is probably going to be higher because the ignore defense is conditional and the bookworm's is not. But that's interesting. That I would really like to grab this one because I want to play with that. That just seems neat. Black Magic Dark. Your skill activation chance against enemies without debuffs. So, for example, this one right here is a 70% chance to apply that off the skill. But if the target has no debuffs, then it's 100% because it's increased by 30. Now here's the weird thing about percentages that I really dislike. If you are doing percentage increases, that does not actually mean, the way it's worded, does not mean it goes to 100%. Increased by 30% technically should be 30% of the 70%, meaning that it would go from 70%, and then 70 divided by 3 is what, 23, right? 3 times 20 is 60. 3 times 3 is 9. So it's 23.3, whatever. They'll round down. So that means it should go from 70% to 93%. Or 94, depending on how they round. 90% of the time when you're dealing with statistics, that's what that means. So if you get a skill, a lot of skills in idle games do this too, but in these games as well, it says, increase your character's critical chance by 5%. Then it's not, oh, my crit chance is 10%, then it goes to 15. Usually what that means is it's 10%, 5% of 10 is 2, so it goes to 12. So that makes sense? That's usually what it means when they say by. That's also, but a lot of them also, especially in translations, will use by to mean in addition to what it currently is, which would go from 10 to 15 or from so on and so forth, because then in that case you'd go, if you're doing by 30%, in that case, instead of going 70 to 93, you'd go 70 to 100. So we won't know until we have these units to play with if it is by 30%, meaning 30% of what it currently is, or by 30%, meaning 30% plus whatever it is. Hopefully it's the second one, because 100% is always better. But even if it's not, it's still a lot of increase. If your attack lands as a crit, strip a buff and apply damage over time. Additionally, damage caused by damage over turn will be increased to... Oh, brother. So, all that aside, this last line, because this is clearly a passive. Additionally, all damage caused by damage over time on the battlefield will be increased to 1.5 times. That is going to go so well with this guy. Yes, I didn't think I was going to pass it, so I was just throwing stuff at the wall to see what I could do on B8, so I wanted to get him, and I did pass it. I haven't leveled him yet. I wanted to show you. I haven't pulled. We can look and see. I still have the same basic number. Actually, I have a little bit more, but I still have all the same pulls and stuff. Because remember, this does damage based on the damage over time abilities that are on it. We want him to crit so that they do more, and we want him to have enough accuracy to extend the damage over time that's on it from right there, extend the debuffs before he makes them blow up, and we want him to crit when he blows up, so we want him to have accuracy, we want him to have crit damage, we want him to have decent attack, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. But that also means that wicked witch, that dark wicked witch, will increase the damage he does per DOT by quite a bit, because that's a 50% increase per each DOT debuff. And if we're putting 6, 8, 10 on there, that's going to do so much more damage with... Man, I really want these two. I want all of them because, again, this speaks straight up to my scene kid heart. My vaporwave, dress me in all black with cool hair self. That's amazing. But that would be so good with him and with him. Also, I cannot believe we got so lucky to pull him. Now that we've got him and him, we're going to have to start farming a bunch of gear, but we're going to throw together a team for boxing club. And so I'm going to work on that so we can get boxing club 10 on lock. Because if you look, if we go to strategy, here's your recent ones. Look at that. That top one right there is your standard team. And we've got at least 4 of those units. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I just got to get them leveled. And all that. Up, I got her too, So if you're looking at these teams, we got enough that we can probably do that. If you look at the fastest teams, Oh, look. Well, right there they are. Right there, those three are. Right there, those three are. Each team, like this team right here, is the team that I run on my main account, actually. Um, I'll use the tree guy here instead of him. Well, we talked about that last time. Because it's good and quick. But look, there's that one I was telling you guys about the other day, where it's just two nin rats, two captains, and the bookworm to clear waves, just to guarantee that when you get to the last stage, you've got somebody who can make something go boom, right? So that is kind of what we're going to work on next. Um, Hopefully that'll be probably our next one for tomorrow. Maybe we'll see how it goes this evening. Um, I do need to get out there and run these things too before I forget. That's okay. But first, before we leave, we do need to do summons. We need to get a default 4-star. So let's see. Oh, look at this. We got a Twilight. So looks like we're going to have about 100 summons on Friday. So Friday's video is going to be a summon video. It looks like we'll record it after work on Friday. And we'll get to see what we get, right? What are we at percentage-wise? So, excuse me. We have a 25% chance to pull a 4-star. Beautiful. And if we come down here to the powerfuls, you see they're at an 8 right now. And the exclusive is also at a 25%. So I could, first off, I could pull any one of these and immediately get a 4-star. And which would satisfy that. But I want to save these specifically for Friday. This one, technically I could save for Friday, but I want to finish the missions, you know? And then this week, all three of these are good. If we get 100% rate summon, or close enough that I think we can get it within 7, we will pull on this for the 5-star. If we can't, honestly, next week or the week after, both are really good. I because it is deterministic, kind of, because the pulls on regular Illyrium increase the exclusive Illyrium's chances, I am less likely to pull on these, and I probably am not going to pull these Friday, by the way, unless, again, we get a high enough account, than I am to pull anything else. Because it gives you a deterministic way to pull specific 5-stars. Granted, it's still a low chance, but ooh, he's kind of nice. He does a shield on himself, and he shield on all allies at the beginning of a battle, plus a shield on himself when every turn. So he's actually pretty good, and people get speed down for hitting him. This one does defense down. It's always an advantageous attribute, so you can take him against fire units, make him good and tanky. Take him, tank. Take him against fire units, and this will always land without the increased chance to glance. And then this one inflicts speed down and is a 3-turn hit. That's a fantastic unit. He's a good unit. That blue dome fighter, which we got 3 of apparently. Ooh, Gyrolean. One of my favorite units. They nerfed her a little bit not too long ago, because they added this effect resets right here. But she is such a good unit. All of the dome fighters are so good. We got the Fire Spider, who will auto burrow and heal if he's supposed to die. Applies stun and counterattacks when he is burrowed, and does standard attack down. So that's nice. And then we got this guy who ignores defense on skill 3, but has a 30% penalty to crit rate, which means you need at least 130 crit rate to basically guarantee a crit rate on this. Damage based on max HP. He can be super good at nuking out a single target. Not so much with those stats, though they're not horrible. But we did get a 4-star. In fact, we got several, right? No, we got one 4-star. We got several new things. My bad. So we can claim those. Look, we got 2 of these back. We're getting close to these 5 power beans, which means we are over halfway to our lovely war nurse here. So, come see, come saw. Look at that. We are getting when the getting's good. So I'm gonna work on some boxing club. See if we can't. Oh, I already did that. Okay. See if we can't get boxing club 10 unlocked with what we got. And if we can't, that's okay. We'll get there eventually. I do need to farm up a bunch more of these so that I can max out more stuff, and so I can get these guys to the level I need them to be at, and so on and so forth. But that is a that is a problem for future me. For right now, we're gonna say have a good evening, have a good night. I'm so excited for Friday. I can't wait to do this big pull. And in the words of the great poet, be excellent to each other. Bye.